Everyone, thank you for attending today's webinar, which is titled Why and How to Migrate from Oracle Reports to Jasper Reports. I can tell you this is going to be a great webinar filled with great content. We have some excellent speakers lined up, and I am very happy that all of you could join. It's interesting that this is a topic that has gained quite a bit of attention over the past year, especially since Oracle announced Reports is end of life, and they've released the last and final version of Reports. So it's a topic on many people's mind. What do I do with my Oracle Reports that my organization relies heavily on? So we're going to talk about that today. As Jasper Reports is an excellent future state, target state option in terms of replacing your Oracle Reports. So that said, presenters that we have lined up for today. First up is Guillaume Autier, who is the Director of Solution Consulting for Tibco. And Tibco is the owner of JasperSoft, Jasper Reports, the lead in engineering and innovation behind Jasper. So we're very excited to have him speak today. We also have Magdalena Serban, my colleague, who heads up research and development for PITSS Global, I would say, but she is based in Germany. And like I said, I am Jason Mara, and I head up operations for PITSS US. I'm based in Troy, Michigan, just north of Detroit. So what are we going to be talking about for the next hour? One is the benefits of Jasper Reports. What a general overview of the product itself, the solution, and Guillaume will take over that. And he's got a great presentation for you all today on the benefits. And I think once Guillaume goes through his presentations, you'll see why Jasper Reports is a suitable solution in terms of replacing your Oracle Reports. It will not only meet, but I guarantee it will exceed whatever requirements you have for a reporting tool. We'll also talk about specifically migrating from Oracle Reports to Jasper, and this is something that Madi will lead, and she'll talk through it, how our tool that most of you know, PITSS.CON, has been enhanced to support this type of migration. Some excellent functionality that Madi's team has implemented in the tool, and I think you guys are all going to enjoy it and see the value that it can provide. And then lastly, I'll close it with some of the services and solutions that we offer and that we can provide for organizations, for companies looking to migrate their reports or simply looking to form a strategy for developing a roadmap for replacing the reports with a future state technology. We've already had a number of questions that a lot of you have asked during the registration process, so we're going to address those today at the end. But if you do have a question, something pops up, please feel free to utilize the Q&A button that should be, I believe, at the top of your screen. All right, lastly, before I turn it over to Guillaume, why is this important? I think I already alluded to it in the beginning when I said that Oracle has been clear about their statement of direction for reports, that it is end of life. The version 12 is the final version of Oracle Reports. I believe, and Madi will get to this, but extended support for Reports 12C is through 2022 to 2023, so there's a few years left there. But now is the time to be forming your strategy, right? It's just doesn't make sense to wait until you're forced to do something to move off. You should always have a strategy in place for your mission critical legacy applications. That's what I tell my customers day in and day out. So we recently did another webinar on reports as a topic, and we put a poll in that webinar, and more than 100 attendees responded to that question of really, the future state of your reporting applications. And more than 52% of the respondents have already decided that it's time to move away from Oracle Reports based on the feedback they've been getting from Oracle and what's happening in the marketplace and the shift in the market and whatnot. And when we say 52%, that's specific to Jasper report. So you see the remaining, the others, the 19 to 14, those are Oracle technologies, which is great, but it's overwhelmingly was companies have decided for Jasper reports. And it makes perfect sense as it's an excellent solution. So therefore, based on that feedback, we decided to get in touch with Tibco, partner with Tibco, and put together some content, a webinar, a strategy, and tooling for supporting customers in migrating their reports to Jasper reports. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Guillaume Autier to present his part of the presentation. Guillaume, go ahead, please.
Thanks a lot. So I'm going to share my screen and start my presentation. So thanks for this beautiful introduction and sets the stage. So I hope everyone can see my screen. What I'm going to present you today is an introduction to the JasperSoft suite. And I will take the angle of the history of our suite, what we have been created originally and how we grow and what we are capable of doing today. And then I will cover briefly why migrating to JasperSoft could make sense, more from a functional standpoint, because already in the introduction you had clues for that. And then I would like also to show you samples from customers. And I picked these samples because they all came from a migration process. Some from Oracle, some from business objects, but all you will see here have been created from a migration project, and I think this will be, and I hope it will be more relevant for you. Let's start. First of all, as you may know, one of the problems when you are managing a database is how are you going to represent the results to your customer, to your audience. So first of all, JasperSoft has been created to design pixel perfect PDF. So we were a lot on the document industry, if I can say so. So an invoice, for example, is document, and JasperSoft has been used to create invoice when you click on the invoice button, and then you get a PDF with your invoice. We are also used in France and in other countries, but I can quote France here, for tickets. So anytime you take the Eurostar, or if you print your ticket in using the French railroads, indeed you're printing a JasperSoft document. And it's interesting to see, it's a good showcase on what we can produce in terms of layout. So here you have images, you have barcodes, and even something specific to the French railroad, you cannot hack that. And then you have advertisements and, as you can see, rich content generated. And if you wonder if it scales, well, we produce millions of train tickets every day. So the solution does scale. And here, this is a way to recognize someone working at JasperSoft. Anytime we receive something, we look at the PDF and search if there is the JasperSoft behind that PDF. And here, for example, of this train ticket, you can see that it's using the JasperReports library. Talking about reports, we can do obviously a lot of kind of reports, and reports can be interactive. So here in that example, maybe you want to change the pie chart because for this particular case, the pie chart is not the best visualization. So end user can very easily, without any knowledge, just change the layout a little bit and change the chart types if they want, and get their result self in order to have their own copy of the report. So when displayed on the web, reports can be interactive, and whatever you do, you will get a pixel perfect result at the end, even if you export to a PDF. Dashboards is also a capability we offer on our professional edition. So the Professional Edition gets the same core as JasperSoft Community Edition, but we added a lot of self-service capabilities. The first one of those self-service capabilities is the ability to create dashboards. So any visual that JasperSoft can handle can be mock-up into one page, and you can then pick up a chart, you can pick up tables, you can pick up any existing report, images, and mock up that into a web page that you can later on export and schedule, like any Jasper reports if you want. And this is a very easy way to get operational reports for and dashboards for our customers. I also introduced self-service. If we can consider a dashboard as a wall, then the self-service, or what we call ad hoc view, is a way to create the bricks to build the wall. And here you can see we are using a web interface, and we have what we call a semantic layer or a domain, and user can drag and drop and create charts, tables, and crosstab directly on the web in a secure environment. All of this could be seamlessly integrated into your portal or into your web application or even into your desktop application. Whatever we propose, we have either a web service or a Java API or a JavaScript API that allow you to create and embed content with JasperSoft. For example, that page that could be extremely interactive, that include a map changing these charts, this chart changing this table that you can sort, filter directly on the web and export into all the formats that we support. This is the latest edition, the capability to seamlessly embed into virtually all web application that supports JavaScript. Just a quick recap on what JasperSoft can do. We can do reports, and even, as I said, extremely technocratic like kind of reports with complex layouts, barcodes, whatever. We can do interactive reports. Those reports can be consumed on the web, on a client, and also on mobile. We can do operational dashboards, so you can create your mockup and also give mockups to your customers. And we can also perform operational self-services, meaning giving access to business model of the data, so people can easily create their own dashboards or their own reports on the fly. We also offer some data integration capabilities if you want to connect to very foreign data source, or if you want to combine data source together or create a data warehouse or manage a data warehouse. This is not mandatory, but as JasperSoft, and you will see, is very affordable, we are sometimes the first BI platform our customer experience. And because of that, they may have some data strategy questions that are totally legitimate. And this is why we also offer some data integration capabilities. Having said that, I would like to start the first poll question. And the question is, are you going to use JasperSoft as an internal facing tool or an external facing tool? It could be both, by the way. So I let you some time to answer.
Guillaume, this is Jason. I'll just add, everyone, that we did start this poll. Another window should have popped up for the that includes the poll question. So if you're using dual monitors, maybe check your other monitor just in case. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so if I look at the poll result, we have almost both internal and external, you know, in an advance, and then internal as well. Okay, it's kind of spread. The good news is you can do both with JasperSoft, so I'm comfortable, you know, in any with any response you gave. But it's interesting to see this how this is spread. Thanks for your response, and let's continue. So why converting to JasperSoft? There is multiple reasons for that. Here I will be maybe more feature-oriented, and there is also this strategy, you know, from the Oracle standpoint. But I just want to say and state this. First of all, with JasperSoft, you can deploy to a larger audience. You know, I mentioned the train tickets, but that's not the only way to use JasperSoft. But our architecture is lightweight. We rely on one Java application server for almost everything. Since it's a Java application, it could scale, and you can load balance it, and also have, you know, a high availability architecture under it. Licensing is not user-based. That means we are not counting users. So whatever you are, a report writer, or whatever you are, just a report consumer, we absolutely don't count users. So the cost of ownership could be zero if you select the community edition. And then we usually say that we grow with the growth of your project. And here I'm just going to give a little anecdote, if I can say so. We have a company in Italy called LeasePlan that is using JasperSoft. And first of all, they were making a couple of proof of concept. And well, they didn't pay for it. They simply take the community edition and work with it, and they were happy with it. Then they realized that they need better charting, animated charts libraries, because it was used by everyone in the company. And because it's become critical, they also have the question of support. So they came to us and say, well, we would like to have some support, but we also would like to have, you know, more nicer chart, because this reporting solution is getting more and more exposition, and it's no longer a prototype, so it should look more animated, more appealing. And we replied to that by saying, yes, you can do that. Later on, they came with the idea of creating dashboards and having people starting to experience self-service, because they're getting more and more requests for reports, and their IT department simply cannot follow the request. So we also responded, yes, we can be with you and help you with the dashboards. And then later on, they came back to us and say, hey, our customer will also love to have the ability to get access from their website to their statistics, and, you know, play around with their own data. Can you do that a secured way? And our answer was yes. So it's not like you probably have experienced one big hit on the budget, then you probably have to justify for years. Here, our philosophy is we grow as the project of our customer grows. Then extend and embed. This is also something extremely important for us. You can add functions to perform complex tasks. It's very often said that you need to be a Java guru to use JasperSoft. It's not true. Indeed, you can use the full potential of Java to extend JasperSoft. So there is a lot of things you can do out of the box. But you can also use Java to expand if you have a lot of complex formulas, or if you want to have an integration with, I don't know, R or statistical libraries. You can embed with that, because the heart of JasperSoft is Java. And if you know how to use Java, then you can only make JasperSoft better. Same thing with chart libraries. we have a concept we call custom visualization component that help you to integrate charting libraries within JasperSoft. And think of the benefit of it. Everyone wants to have animated charts, but at the end of the day, what they want is to print a pixel perfect PDF. Well, combining our technology with charting libraries such as D3, HighCharts, or Awesome 3D, and many others, you have the benefits of the two worlds, and you can have those beautifully animated charts and the ability to export them in PDF formats with all the other components JasperSoft can provide. Embed, as I said, you can use REST API, JavaScript API to integrate into workflows, portal, or service. And then you've probably seen that we can create books with JasperSoft. We are used for complex and certified layouts, such as train tickets, and also ISO compliant reporting. Here are some samples. So this one is, I'm sorry if you probably see blur, but it's simply because it's real life example, and well, we have to take care of non-disclosing information from our customers. But this customer was using Crystal Reports, and they have multiple databases they wanted to combine together. It's a software product company that are specialized in wineries. And for example, they also were using specific charts that they embed with JasperSoft in order to help people to understand their dashboards. So they wanted to have features such as top-N, dynamic grouping, dynamic measures, and of course, an integration using Visualize.js. Another sample is for transplantations. So here you can see an image of an airport and have a heat map on that Google Map image, satellite image, and then you have some heat maps on where people are spending most of their times in the airport. The other one is custom visualization using int library. This is for a customer called IDS, Independent Data Service. And what they do is they are performing data on forages. So anytime you have a drill into down to earth, they're taking samples on how the soil are, what kind of resistance they have. So they, it's mostly IoT here. So they get probes, everywhere in the place to measure, the movements, etc., etc. And they were capable of using our technologies and the int library, which is a charting library that is specialized on real-time data. I think that is for me. So thanks for watching us here, and we can continue.
Okay, thanks, Guillaume, and welcome everyone. I need to share my screen. Okay, so welcome again. Thanks, Guillaume, for the Jasper Reports insight. And this topic is extremely important because, as Jason said at the beginning, at this very moment, most of our customers still having reports are exploring for the best technologies to consider for their applications in the future. And I would start with this roadmap of Oracle reports here, Oracle Forms and Reports. We all know that in August this year, we've seen the terminal version of Oracle reports. And sadly, there have been no new features, unfortunately, in this product for the last 12 years. Oracle reports has been indeed robust, extremely powerful. Some of us loved it, some of us hated it, I know it. But anyway, we need another reporting solution for the future. I am myself a Forms and Reports developer, now managing the research and development department at PITSS. My team includes even more Forms and Reports developers, but also Java, ADF, Apex, Jasper, BI Publisher, .NET, you name it. experts. All this knowledge is necessary because we are carrying on since 2010. We have specialized in migrations and carry on migration projects one after another. Additionally, designing tools, processes to make migrations less challenging. So we are focused therefore now, especially on migrating reports. As Jasper is the top choice among our customers, we look into how to apply all these solutions and processes to particularly make Jasper migration successful. And the key to migration success is to define from the very beginning the success criteria. And because this is the key, because different people will expect different things from a migration project. And the project won't be successful until the stakeholders are happy. This is why when we carry on a migration, we make sure to talk to everyone important, learn their needs. For instance, the migration is successful if the end user is happy. He or she usually will not care which technology we are using, but will be interested on a modern, good-looking result, on a good performance, and would like to have additional benefits, so not just the same slides, the same reports again. And Jasper has what it takes to bring these benefits, such as data flexibility, various output formats, etc. This is a good moment to, because it relates to one of the polls my colleagues have defined. So I would ask my colleague to pop the next poll. Just a second. Okay, so this poll is about the number of reports that need to be modernized. So you may have some reports which would need to stay as they are because they have to comply to some UI standards, ISO, something like that. And you may have other reports which would be good to modernize, to enhance. So what percentage of reports need to be revised in order to add new features, layout, and so on. And between 0 and 30, this is percentage. So less than 30% or less than 70% or almost the entire application will need to be revised. Okay, thank you for voting. So we see the situation is pretty balanced. A third of us think they have just a few reports which will need to be revised. The rest of them are okay. They need to stay as they are. A third of us think, okay, a lot of reports needs to be revised. And there are also 40% of the people thinking the entire application will need to be respecified, revised, redefined. This is something very important to consider from the very beginning in a project. So going further, another stakeholder is the IT department. So the developers need to make the transition to Jasper and to make it easily. And the biggest issue here is understanding and always understanding and remembering what all those old reports were built for, how they worked. This is also key because we never have time to remember and analyze in detail. There are always time constraints. We have solutions especially designed for this type of analysis. There is another challenge for the IT developer, the challenge of learning, but from our experience, that is not the problem. So Oracle reports developers can easily learn Jasper reports. Thirdly, the management needs to know that the project is paying off, that it is a strategic move. Software is these days a key differentiator. It can support or boost a business, or it can stop it if it doesn't work as supposed. We have on our webpage a lot of examples, migration examples, and you can look at the references. I posted here in the slides 2 recent projects my team and I are extremely proud about. Volkswagen mobile migration to .NET was then, where Mr. Christman, the customer manager, was so happy about the result that he declared all the deadlines were met, even those that we had classified internally as barely feasible. And we did not do a one-to-one migration, but the end mobile application looked as if it was transformed the old handheld devices into smartphone just from the visual point of view. Another project is MERC, a migration to Java ADF, again with top reference words. All milestones were kept. The delivered solution was of excellent quality. Now, we've seen success examples. We need to also look at less than successful cases to learn from them, to never let that happen. Do migrations always succeed? Not all the time. Unfortunately, sometimes they fail badly. It may cost even millions. I copied on this page a news from the German Federal Employment Agency, stopping this year a migration project after spending 60 million euro. There are, unfortunately, lots of stories like this, some of them from companies we know and like. It's a pity, and this motivates us to create solutions. We have a repository-based engine able to analyze an Oracle software system, able to regenerate it in various technologies. So we included in these engines also measures in these generation engines to help our customers and us in this type of migration issues. But to know what to avoid, we need to know what happens in these scenarios, the reasons some projects fail. Here is the typical storyline of a migration disaster. It all starts with the best intentions. Actually, people plan to design a new perfect system. They decide to redevelop fully manually. Unfortunately, the analysis effort is always huge. So people decide after a while to get things going because they have to start, they have to do things. They'll figure out the details later. And then the typical issue are time related. This type of projects are not just out of budget, they are badly out of budget. They are 2-3 times their budget. The reason is that it is difficult to estimate the work just by looking at a system. We may know that some screens are complex, others simple, but without exact metrics, we just guess and we risk. So now, when this happens, the business presses, the usual fix in such situation is to hire more developers, which leads to mixed development style, complicated architecture, mistakes, major showstoppers coming up later in the project, discovered sometimes too late. And in such a total nightmare scenario, there are things we point out, there are solutions so that we can avoid that. So this scenario is not in our case, not for us. Again, we have developed across the years a set of solutions to avoid this and applied them on and on, fine-tuned, and can guarantee to any customers, if these solutions are applied, the project will succeed, will be on time, on budget, the result will be of excellent quality. So elements of these solutions are, we need estimations, accurate ones, no guessing. We need analysis tools to understand quickly, thoroughly. We need a mix of tool-supported migration and manual fine-tuning. The architectural basis is also important. It should be identical for all developers. There should be a set of best practices in place for a consistent quality development, and we need a step-by-step process. So let's take this as our plan, and it relates to the next page, which is the migration plan we use in all types of migrations. It's a step-by-step format, a mix of tool support, manual fine-tuning, involving phases, and making sure we do not forget anything important. A first analysis phase, preparation. We define targets, clean application, identify deprecated components, clean reports of unused objects, move PL/SQL code to the database if possible, then re-estimate the efforts accurately. The second part is the tool generation phase. We come with the tool engines, we customize this process according to our needs and generate the new Jasper reports artifacts. And then we just open, this is the manual fine-tuning phase, we open the reports with Jasper Studio, we test them, we eventually fine-tune them, they may need some fine-tuning, some reports may migrate almost completely, others will need more manual work. This whole process can be applied step by step to a subset of the initial application. For instance, if an application has 1,000 reports, we may define several clusters, like 10, 20 clusters of related reports and forms, migrate these clusters successively so that we can concentrate on a smaller set of of objects. I'd like now to switch to the demo and show you how these work also in practice. But before doing that, let us have the second poll. So I will ask my colleague Hubert to start the poll. And it's about if you plan to start a migration project, if it's already started in 2017 or earlier, or if you plan it for next year, or you know, it's later. We have to wait a couple of seconds for everyone to be able to vote, and then we'll see the result. And we have the result. A lot of people want to start things in 2018. Let 2018 be a good year, yes? We are going to migrate. Now, let's go to the demo. I'd like to show you the product we designed for migrations. And I have two instances. On the first one, I loaded, it's called Reports Replacer Kit. It's the web interface. You can see here in the application navigation tree on the left side. I loaded a customer application we are analyzing at this moment. And to make this type of full analysis, we loaded in the repository all the database schemas, several database schemas, in total more than 5,000 objects, forms and reports modules, libraries, and then parsed the entire code, looked for dependencies. You can see here more than 1,000 forms module, 500 reports, and also thousands of other objects needed to compile all these forms and reports objects. Our repository is also Oracle-based, and what it does, it splits each software element in its objects, properties, code. Then all these components get parsed. We analyze the dependencies and can do a lot of things based on these analyses, such as we can produce reports, documentation, re-engineer, or even rewrite the application entirely, as in our case. Let's run some analysis. I'll jump to a type of application analysis. I selected here one report in the module summary and program unit flow. You can see a graphic showing the internal elements of a report, the way components are related, the call flow down to database packages and tables. We can see, for example, where format triggers are used. This report is particularly important in migrations because we save a huge amount of time alone by being able to understand at a glance what happens in a particular report. Additionally, we make sure to consider all issues, not to forget anything crucial. So we get to decide what to do with the logic. For example, if there is a lot of code in the report, we also have routines to migrate that logic to database packages. Another graphical report we use a lot, and this time I'll show it in the PowerPoint because it takes more time to generate. It is, however, extremely important. A navigation diagram searches for all forms calls such as call form, open form, and also for reports calls, web shell document, run product, etc. And displays this in a graphical format. And you can figure out when we have a customer with 1,000 forms and 500 reports, the resulted graph is so huge, we need to print it on huge sheets of paper, then attach this paper to the walls of a conference room, gather the development team, the architects, and start architecting, start planning, start identifying whatever we may have missed there, so that we make sure we take everything in consideration. We also split the application. You see here we put colors. We split the application in clusters, the finance cluster, the human resources cluster. And you see the reports there. You have the modules calling reports, and you know that you're going to take care of the various clusters one after another. We may decide different technologies for different clusters. We may deprecate some application parts because they are no longer used. And then we prioritize. We decide which cluster goes first, which the second, and so on. This is an extremely important instrument for architecting and planning migration projects. Now, going back to the demonstration, I'll go to the second instance. Let's produce metrics and estimation. I have here, I need to reconnect for sure. To have the accurate data. I'll go to the reporting dashboard, which takes care of metrics and estimations. Lots of metrics necessary for a migration project. On this machine, I have loaded a few of our own PITSS reports, 15, you see 15 report modules. They are not confidential, so we can look inside their components. We can use them for the migration demonstration. What I need before starting this demo is to estimate and identify any eventual issues. I will select one report. Let's open, for instance, this one, file history. We'll use file history and branch history. And what you can see in this page, let's start with the top left pie chart. It shows me how much work will I need to take care to finally to finalize this report, for instance. Analysis and data management, user interface, business logic. It is well balanced, which does not happen always. Sometimes the business logic is consistent and is not ideal. So we take care in that case, where you have a lot of yellow in that pie chart, to move business logic into the database. Now, going forward, in the top right area, you can see an estimation of the reports loaded for this application. The tool allocates a complexity weight to each module, depending on how many and how complex are their components. And this way, we can accurately calculate the time effort based on this weight. And I can see these are the top reports in my application. And in the below area, we see marked with orange and red particular challenges. Let's start with data model here. We see here 4 groupings, for instance. We see 6 parameters and so on. In the layout area, we have non-repeating frames, which are very easy to develop. We have repeating, that means they're related to groupings, and a bit more complicated, but no showstopper. We see some graphical elements, such as lines. They're important. If we want the report to be identical in Jasper, these lines will need to be positioned exactly as in Oracle report, pixel perfect. And in the logic part, a lot of red and yellow triggers are usually tricky because the order of execution between queries and triggers is different in Jasper and Oracle reports. No big issue, usually doesn't create any type of issue, but we need to take care that these things function in Jasper as we expect, and if not, to apply workaround to adjust things. We are moving to Java and we want the architecture to be Java. If we click the top report node, so to see for all the reports, the statistic, we see the total statistic for my entire application, all the 15 reports. We notice here in the lines of code column, a couple of thousand lines of code that we will need to take a look into. We see 96 triggers using SRW built-in, which is related to user interface decisions, all marked with yellow, orange, with orange, red, because they may need particular attention or may not. We'll see. Now let's migrate the report. So I jump to, we don't cluster today. That is for an architectural meeting. We'll select the report we're interested in, let's say branch history, and migrate, press the migration button. Now, in doing this, I accepted the default settings and I will go with them, and I can see my file being migrated. And in the below area, I can see the statistics. The migration engine has created the sources necessary for the new Jasper report, and we will be able to download them to open in Jasper Studio. In this bottom area, we can see the detail, what has been migrated, so summary of report objects, what remains for manual adjustment. I need to mention here that the engine just applies these best practices we define and develop wherever it is possible. If it meets a situation where a manual decision is necessary, it skips that object and documents in the list of not converted or components to update manually. And it documents at the I'll show you, generate object at the property level. So it takes object by object and tells you which type of property has been migrated to which type of property. This way we are sure that the resulting report is absolutely natural, because if the algorithm does not push this, tries to push the percentage of automatically migrated object as far as possible, but does not force it beyond natural, beyond best practices, because we want the generated reports to look as handmade and to be a pleasure to maintain afterwards and enhance. Let's run the report. Before that, I'd like to show how it looks in Oracle reports. So I have on a virtual machine a report, Oracle report builder. We'll run this file branch history. We can see the 6 parameters and run it. So we can see how the report looked like in reports, in Oracle reports. Now, coming back to our interface, we'll download this source file. We can see in the download bar here. By clicking this, it should open in Jasper Studio. What we need to do is preview how this file looks like. I can see it has parameters as well, and I would need to give a database connection. And Jasper Studio, in case everything went well, and of course I picked a report where it works perfectly. Usually it works well. Sometimes we have to do fine-tuning. We can see the result, and we can compare what we had before with what we have now. The default migration is actually a 100% replica of the initial system. We can recognize the line and text indentation, the text bold and size formatting, etc. So the reason is that most customers need some of their reports to be pixel identical because they have to comply with some legal requirements. This is possible and saves a lot of time. Just think of the number, thousands and thousands of visual components in a report that you would need to position and multiply the number of fields, text elements, lines, everything that need to be positioned by, I don't know, a couple of minutes. I don't know how much it takes for each of them to fine tune and to test. And there are huge amounts of savings alone by doing this. What is also possible is enhancing this report, and that's the target. We just don't want to get to Jasper Studio and have the same thing. We want to apply templates. We want to add visual elements to make use of all the nice features we have in this framework. We are now in a whole new world. We can bring these reports to a whole new level by applying UI templates, adding these visual elements and interactivity. And this ends my planned demo for today. Hope I could offer an impression of what's possible with a tool-supported approach. We're glad to talk to you, help you assess your application, carry on projects for you or together with you. But for now, I look forward to your questions, and back to Jason for a wrap up. Jason?
Thank you, Mari. I will take over. Okay, so it's a couple of slides here to close things out, and we're going to get to the Q&A here in a minute as well. But maybe a little info about PITSS. I'm sure most of you know who we are, what we do, but even if that is the case, we have gone through I would say, a massive revamp over the past couple of years. So we are experience a tremendous growth period and growth mode right now. So we have 4 offices in 3 countries. We truly are a global company with 70 team members. As a whole, we can speak 15 different languages. So chances are, you know, wherever you're based in the world, we can help you out, and we have a senior resource that can probably communicate in your native tongue. On top of that, this is probably where we've really revamped and have grown, is our expertise outside of Oracle Forms, and even reports for that matter, has grown tremendously. So we are doing very exciting projects, legacy modernization, migration projects from forms or reports to other technologies such as Apex, Spring, Angular, some different JavaScript frameworks within Oracle. Of course, I mentioned Apex, ADF. We've done those for a number of years now. So that is something I'm personally very proud of, that we have shifted where the market is going in terms of what organizations are doing in terms of modernizing their mission critical legacy apps, and we've been helping our clients in bringing them success. So specifically on reports though, and talking of our solution offerings, because that's the topic of today, we talked about a number of things specific to JasperSoft. Madi had a great presentation, including the demo. I don't know where you all are at in your, it looked at, based on the poll, that a number of you are going to take on some kind of migration or modernization project next year, which is great. But regardless of where you're at in your process, in process meaning what you're going to be doing with your Oracle reports, we have a solution that can help you out, starting with our reports orientation day, followed by our Oracle reports migration assessment, and then a full-on reports migration type engagement. So the orientation day, which is more of a workshop, is really focused on, is meant for organizations that do not have a strategy in place. They say, hey, I have a number of Oracle reports that are mission critical. I have business users just hitting this thing up on a day-to-day basis, but we don't know what to do. We know reports is going away. Is it Jasper? Is it BI Pub? Is it BERT? Is it something else? Bring us in. We'll work with you for a day and go through everything. We'll want to learn about your requirements, kind of what you see what the business requirements look like, what your internal technical staff skill sets look like. And we'll go through with you all the top reporting tools that are out there and figure out what makes the most sense for your organization based upon the requirements you have. So it's something that I think you'll get a lot of benefit, a lot of value out of in just a one-day engagement. So it's short. So again, just kind of highlight some of the bullets there. Prepare your enterprise for a serious, realistic, and goal-oriented decision. It's aligned to whatever your mid to long-term goals are, and then understanding what work needs to be done in order to be successful. Next, on the assessment itself, Madi kind of highlighted a little bit on some of the projects, modernization projects that have gone bad. And really you can point those two things to a number of reasons, starting with not doing a proper assessment. There are so many organizations out there that think they can either just replace their legacy application with something else off the shelf, and then they learn, hey, this thing doesn't meet my requirements. I need to customize this by 50%, and it's never ending. Or I can redevelop it in another, from scratch in another technology. Same thing, right? I don't have any documentation. These systems have been, my legacy systems have been in place for 20 and 30 years. How do you expect to redevelop something that's been along for that long and still meet all of the business requirements? So this assessment that we do is an engagement that involves the use of PITSS.CON, of course, and including the functionality that Madi showed today, but also some of our senior resources, our architects, our people that have been through this before, been through this process, have been through numerous migration, modernization projects, so know exactly what to look for. And what this is going to us take your reports, look at them, and develop a detailed project plan, meaning what is the level of effort to migrate my reports to said technology, so specifically Jasper. And we're going to look at it from the sense of, okay, this is how complex my reports are. This is how much code that is in there. This is how much code that's not even being utilized anymore. So we develop a plan based on what's inside your reports and what's actually being utilized by the business users. So like I mentioned that reducing the project timelines, we're going to identify training requirements, and in the end, we're going to provide a cost-effective solution for migrating your reports to the future state technology. And just a little bit more on that, just so you kind of get a sense of what's involved in this assessment process. In terms of how long the assessment is, that can depend, right, on the number of reports, kind of what your goals are, what you're trying to get out of it. But typically anywhere from a week to a few weeks, somewhere in that range is typical when we do these assessments. So we start with the preparation phase that involves loading your application into our PITSS.CON repository and parsing it. And then we go through our technical code analysis. We're going to look at where the business logic is distributed. We're going to look at how complex your code is. We're going to look at what program units, tables, views are not even being used anymore. So we're going to look at all the technical details of your application itself, and then develop a report from that, right? What are the an evaluation of the required enhancements. So we ask a poll question like, what type of how much of your application needs to be enhanced. So this is information we want to know about, because this will help us develop a plan and a strategy for your modernization project. We want to help you design your target state architecture, right? So if it's Jasper, okay, like let's ensure that the architecture, we're utilizing, excuse me, the benefits that Jasper brings architecturally as well, and on top of from a functionality standpoint. Create a migration strategy based on prioritization. So we want to do this migration in a phased approach if possible, right? And we want to bring value back to the business throughout the entire life cycle of the project, right? So let's prioritize based upon the reports that provide the most business value to your users in your organization. And then, of course, develop a project plan that includes the effort and cost for doing the conversion project. Finally, we'll present this to you on site and to hand over the report, the document, which would include all of the graphics, charts that Madi showed you as well. And then finally, I'm not going to spend time on this because I think it's out, but we have the resources, we have a full stack team, we have the tooling in place to help with your migration project. This is something that we can take on as an organization if you'd like us to handle the entire project of migrating your reports, or we can do it in more of a flexible manner where it's a blended team approach where we're working jointly with your devs on this type of project. So very flexible in that sense. All right, so let's, we only got a couple minutes left, but I wanted to get through some of the questions that you all asked. We have a number of them, so if we're not going to be able to, I know we're not going to be able to get through all of them, but we will address your questions, whether through the webinar today or by email as a follow-up. So let me actually just stop my share, bring up some of the questions. Give me one moment. Okay. So Madi and Guillaume, I would ask if you could go off mute because some of these questions are going to be for you. First question. What is the back end of Jasper Reports like? Is the install easy? Can I install it on the same machine as my Oracle reports?
Well, it's Guillaume answering here. The backend of JasperSoft is, it's Java, and if you install with the server, it's an application within your container. So it could be Tomcat, it could be WebSphere, it could be WebLogic. So having said that, from the server standpoint, we are just another application on your application server. So yeah, it should work. And the installation is not necessarily a mess because we come with installers that install everything for you. You only have to do next, next, next. And we also have more manual way of deploying using a WAR file on a couple of scripts. So all of that is described in the documentation. So if you go to jaspersoft.com/download, you can have a copy of the server, and it came with an install documentation. And almost all type of installations are described here. So it's a pretty big document, but I installed one day JasperSoft on Solaris without knowing nothing of Solaris, but I was just typing the instruction on the manual and it worked. So I think it's pretty good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, we had this question asked a number of times, so Madi, I'm going to give it to you. Can you, and I believe you addressed it anyways, but let's just readdress it here. Can you integrate Jasper reports with Oracle Forms and/or EBS?
Okay, so we have this question in all our projects because we are at least in the middle of the project in situations where we have a cluster in Forms, a cluster in ADF, we may have Apex, but it's all web. So anything calls web. If Forms can call web show document, and the URL Jasper reports are URLs after all. So everything can be integrated very nicely. Also with Business Suite is also still has some forms and has also Java ADF, and it's the same story. It's web world, and everything can be integrated very nicely for the user. No feeling of leaving one application and entering another.
Okay. We had this question a couple times. Can SQL or SQR reports or Hyperion SQR reports be migrated to Jasper reports, or can they be replaced? I can probably address that. One, yeah, they can definitely be replaced. That's not a problem. I mean, it can replace any type of existing reporting tool. That's not a problem. If Madi, if you want to address like, can our tool, can PITSS.CON handle a SQR report migration to Jasper? I think there's maybe some benefits there, but if you want to take that.
We have to look at the components inside and see, because some of the routines may apply, but did not look into this specifically. Okay,
but it definitely can be replaced. I don't want people to think that you can't replace SQR reports with Jasper, because you definitely can. Okay, maybe time for two more. We're already over time here, but there's so many. I just want to make sure we get to some of them here. There is there a way to integrate digital signatures in a PDF report?
From Jasper standpoint, yes. We have properties to do that, and we can also expand the PDF exporter to include signature and self-signature technologies such as go out time, for example. So yes, it's possible, and this is something we have experience with in the past.
Excellent. All right, last question. Madi, for you. How can PITSS.CON handle conversion of Oracle reports that contain a lot of PL SQL code in a complex data model?
Okay, so let's say we will have, and there is another related, for instance, there are triggers, and they call functions and procedures inside reports, and there you may have a lot of logic. If this logic can be easily migrated to the database. If it is specific to the report, it should, however, stay in the report. So if it does user interface commands, it can stay in the report. We typically, the strategy is to migrate, for instance, formula triggers easily to database packages called from Jasper reports as scriptlets. But if they are simple, they can be migrated to Jasper report Java expression. And this way we simplify a lot the whole architecture of complex reports. So we won't have so many objects in the reports as we used to, but it will be way more easy to navigate through a Jasper report, having all those formula triggers just positioned as Java expressions in the Java reports. And of course, need to say that if we have huge amounts of lines of code and program units, We have also a tool in PITSS.CON designed specific to migrate those pieces of code to the desired architecture in the database, so to create the packages in the way you would like, with the naming conventions and architecture you would like to make. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you, Madi. Okay, we're going to go ahead and end the webinar. I shared my screen again. Here, you see our contact information depending on where you are. If you're in if you're in Germany, I see our German contact info there. In the Americas, we have our contact info in the middle, and then outside of Germany and UK, EMEA, and Asia Pacific, you can contact Sasha with any questions. But I know we didn't address all of your questions, but like I said, I promise we will get back to you, whether through phone or email, and address all of your questions. Thank you everyone for joining. We had more than, I think we had about 200 registrations, which was incredible. And I think more than 75% of those attended. So we know how interesting of a topic this is for you. We know how critical this is for you, and we are here to help. And thank you very much. Goodbye for now.